It doesn't matter if it's climate change or cyberbullying or racism or sexism or regional differences in Canada or plastics in the ocean or the landfill. We tackle them by reaching out, not in. I don't mean try harder, and I don't mean lean in. I mean reach out to someone you know you can help. Thank you, Sam. I'm taking a little bit of a different approach because Sam was very strict about no partisanship, no politics. But I would like to say that Sam and I first met in Torino in 2006. We were part of the advanced team for the 2010 Games, so super timely that we're celebrating the 10th anniversary. Sam and Ken Melamed were the mayors of the host cities, and me and Malcolm Brody were mayors of the venue cities in Richmond and West Vancouver. And of course, we were there with the 4 host First Nations, which sent a very powerful message to the world that they were there. And I think that they've made a difference for sure in how we moved forward here at home since then. And so I'd also like to recognize that we're on the territory of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam peoples. So Sam and Lynn called me last week to say that they were scrambling a bit because they couldn't get Daryl Masato, the former mayor of the city of North Van. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is because all my dreams are coming true. West Vancouver is always happy to be an understudy to the city of North Van. But I do love Daryl Masato, and I loved working with him as a mayor and a neighbor, and you've had Richard Walton here as well. We advocated together for many years, and Derek Corrigan used to look at us at Metro Vancouver board and say, oh, there goes the North Shore getting along again. But that's a message that I think is very powerful. Harold Kalki, some of you may know Harold. He was a developer that did the first geothermal commercial building, which is the Capers building on 4th, a long time ago. He's a neighbor and a friend and a West Van resident, and he said to me, the most powerful thing you need to know about civic engagement is that to love your neighbor is a high calling because you don't have to. And you probably all know that even about where you live. You can be private and you can probably succeed modestly, but if you go beyond, you are already on a path to success. And so it is an honor to fill in for Daryl. And to underscore that point, I went back and looked at an old book by Tip O'Neill. You may remember him. He's like one of the longest serving speakers of the House in the United States. He coined the phrase, all politics is local, which he says really his dad told him, but he lived by that. He was elected forever, but he lost his first election. And he couldn't believe it. I mean, he became a household name and super popular and in movies and everything. But he said to his next door neighbor, why didn't I win? And she said, well, you know, Tip, I did vote for you, but you never asked me for my vote. And that's why you lost. And so he went on to win every election he ran in. And every election day morning, he says to his wife, Millie, will you vote for me today? And she says, thank you for asking. I will consider it. But that's a powerful message, I think, about your neighbor. I could describe how I got into politics and all the people that have supported me over the years, over 16 years. But I think my main message to you is that you're already a part of a big community, and that's the community that will take you where you want to go, and there's a reciprocity in that. It's quite mutual. So don't underestimate the importance of the community that you're in, or even taking time to identify the community you're part of. There's huge value in picking up the phone and saying who you are to people that you don't even know. I would say, in my experience, I have almost never been turned down when you said, I have this idea and I'd like you to help. It's really quite remarkable because it's a compliment to the person you're asking, but it's also a kind of a commitment that is being made right away. I've learned, obviously, and gained so much by really recognizing that anything I could have done or might have done would simply be not possible without everyone else. And that leadership is really about helping others realize their potential. And it's kind of addictive, in a sense, when you see that ignite. I don't believe in the servant model, nor do I believe in the sort of king, I'm the head of the king of the castle. I don't think any of us is either a servant nor a king. I think we're in the middle of things bigger than we really take the time to recognize. One of the most profound pieces of advice and one of the hardest times of my life in politics, I received from the Lieutenant Governor Iona Campagnolo. It was 2007, and I was the mayor of West Vancouver, and we were waging an all-out battle with the province of British Columbia around expanding the Sea to Sky Highway. And I'm not going to go into all of that. But at this point in the story, the province had expropriated the land, which is totally within their purview. And the battle was over, except for the small fact that the province had paid us 50 cents on the dollar. I mean, everyone knows what property in West Van costs, so you have to pay for it, province. I did not want, I would be the last person that wants to be in a fight in 2007 leading into the games with Gordon Campbell, John Furlong, Jack Poole, Kevin Falcon, and West Vancouver is their base as well, one of their strong bases. But I had to sue them for $5 or $6 million. I had to. So Iona Campagnolo felt sorry for me, and she phoned me up and she says, come to Victoria, I want to help you, which was kind, and I got there and she said, I just want you to keep doing what you're doing, actually. You're standing up for your community, you're looking out for their best interests, and I'm going to tell you that no one voted for you so that when you're knocked off the horse, you stay lying on the ground. They voted for you because you're the sort of person that will get right back up on the horse. And she was right, and I did, and it worked out, and Gordon Campbell had to write us a check for $6 million. But the reason I'm telling you this is because I learned a couple things. One, not to be overwhelmed by the events of the day. And I don't mean by that, oh, don't worry, there'll be another scandal, or the news will change, and you're out from under that. I mean that it's a super practical way of coping when things are hard. And it's the key to meaningful change. So another sort of mantra I live by is the value of going slow to go long. And I think Kip made that point really well with the 23 years of acquiring and developing a hospital, and so did Kevin with the girls in school in Afghanistan. It didn't take a year, it took 4, but what if you quit? What a tragedy. Another thing, as you're thinking about engaging further, because I know you're already super engaged and taking responsibility civically, is to ask what issue is motivating you. Obviously, everyone can do that pretty readily, but then ask yourself, can I dig deeper? Can I make the problem bigger? It sounds counterintuitive, but what happens is it gathers more people around you, because you're not narrowing. I find it's a very cynical political strategy, and it's used all the time, to narrow the issue down so much that it excludes all the others. But if you can make the problem bigger, I'll give you an example. There's also more there. So Eagle Ridge Bluffs really wasn't about a highway upgrade or destroying something precious to some people. It turned out that it was about West Vancouver waking up and asking itself, together with British Pacific Properties, how do we see the development of the upper lands? What is our role in providing escape and outdoor recreation for 2.5 million people that live in the Lower Mainland? Gordon Campbell was actually very helpful in that. He wanted me, in a way, to obviously be able to get out of this. And he said to me, Pam, I will always take your call, which I found very generous and a very nice message to always give people. But he says you have to come with a solution and an approach that leaves room for all of us to change, adapt, maintain our dignity. I mean, I'm adding on things that encompasses when you are engaging with people with a solution in mind. So I'm just going to run through these things because I guess what I'm trying to do is encourage everybody to not get mired in the doubt around civic engagement. Really and truly, the people you meet and the experiences you have are incredible. And I haven't even touched on 4 years as a parliamentary secretary all over the world, and I'd love to talk to you about that some more. But to love your neighbor is a high calling, and everyone is your neighbor. You're neither a servant nor a king. You're a person who can influence from the middle. And boy, did I experience that representing Canada all over the world. The expectation of us is that we will be the middle ground, and we will seek to expand the middle ground. I learned a lot in those 4 years, and I left public life by choice because I think I have more to give on every level from here at home. Here at home is where we lead. We were the first to put a price on carbon, to legalize same-sex marriage, to go forward with medical assistance in dying, or formulate Greenpeace. I mean, even West Vancouver, considered a very conservative place, was the first in British Columbia to have curbside recycling. We are the early adopters. I'm pretty convinced now that whatever we do here takes about 30 years to catch on elsewhere in the country. I hope that's okay that I say that. And we sure saw that during the games, didn't we? The number of people from around the world that said, you know, Vancouver is a beacon. You have a public trust to the world for getting your solutions right. Go slow to go long. Take time to be inclusive and engage people up front and throughout. And don't worry, I agree with you about deadlines, but sometimes there's more to accomplish by taking the time up front. And be wary of the quick fixes and the screaming and the yelling and the I've got the answer. To me, that just completely attenuates possibility. Can you make the problem bigger? Because it's incredibly compelling to people to say, are we focused on the right thing? It allows a bigger conversation and allows people who maybe didn't really understand why we're talking about this anyway into the conversation. Bring a solution, and I don't mean an answer. I just mean that it's so important to be positive. And I've been in politics 16 years, and I'm still positive about it because of the kinds of things that Kevin and Kip talked about. And in closing, this is super obvious, but I would just like to say how important I believe it is to stay on the high road. People aspire to the high road, and they recognize it in one another. And it usually comes through really simple things like good manners, a light touch, a sense of humor, being well-informed and ready, but not prescriptive. And most of all, leave room. It's super important to leave room so that people's dignity can be maintained, to leave room so that someone can walk away from the table, but the door stays open and they're welcome back in and to get things back on track. I don't believe anybody has the answers. I think we all have a piece of a puzzle, and that it really only works when we're working together. And I'm just going to conclude by saying the very first council meeting I ever went to, I was 6, and it was in West Van, and we were going to, it was on the issue of wild salmon in creeks in West Van, obviously, in the late 60s. And I've been dedicated to wild salmon for the rest of my life. It turns out Kip and I are in some stewardship groups together. It's a tough time for wild salmon right now on the west coast of Canada. And I guess I look at that meeting, and then I did a master's in political science and served in public life, as an invitation I was lucky to receive when I was 6. These are profound moments. I think that it doesn't matter if it's climate change or cyberbullying or racism or sexism or regional differences in Canada or plastics in the ocean or the landfill, we tackle them by reaching out, not in. I don't mean try harder, and I don't mean lean in. I mean reach out to someone you know you can help. I just find that to be an incredibly powerful invitation to people. You might be the one that gets asked after today, or you might be the one that asks someone, but I would really encourage you to do that. I would say there's been simply no volunteer position in my life that hasn't been a building block and that hasn't contributed either to a better little teeny tiny community or neighborhood, or even nationally or internationally. And I know I was there because of other people. You are truly the potential of those that are sitting beside you and those that are around you, and you are not on your own. And if there's anything I can do to encourage, support, work alongside any one of you, it would be my distinct pleasure. Thank you.